My cheating wife got pregnant while my best friend was living with us. But the thing is, I had a secret vasectomy done to me years ago. So I simply played along until I had proof of their affair and did this. So I recently discovered that my wife, Devin, was having an affair with my best friend, Jeff. And I found this out because she's pregnant. You might ask yourself, Opie, but if she's pregnant, how do you know? Well, I got a vasectomy in my previous marriage. So I know my wife has been screwing around on me because there's no way she can get pregnant from me. And some of you might be thinking, Op, you can still get pregnant with a vasectomy, don't come at me with that. There's a less than 1% chance that I got her pregnant. And we've taken tests since then to prove that it's not mine, so there. Some context. So my best friend, Jeff, recently went through a divorce earlier this year. And I grew up with this guy since we were in grade school. I mean, we're basically brothers. We were both the best man at each other's weddings. We went to college together and took the same courses. We ended up in the police force together and stationed at the same place. You get it? So I first got married when I was 20, and my ex-wife, Trish, and I were high school sweethearts. I was the small-town hockey star who everyone knew was going somewhere. She was this smart, cute, funny pastor's daughter who everyone loved. Anyways, we ended up having our daughter when we were 21 and my son when we were 24. We had a miscarriage in between the two. After my son, my ex-wife and I decided we didn't want any more children. So we decided that I should get a vasectomy. So without telling anyone, I didn't feel like I had to announce it to the world. I went in for a simple lunch surgery and went back to work, and no one was the wiser. My ex-wife and I ended up drifting apart, and we separated amicably. It's not that we didn't love each other, we did, but the love just changed. She had started up this home organization business after the kids were old enough to be a bit more independent, and she got really successful with that and wanted to make the brand bigger. So she put in a lot of time with that, and I was still really passionate about what I was doing, and I was getting deployed all over Canada to teach and whatnot. So we both just kind of drifted apart, but we still fully supported each other and the lives we were both leading. My ex-wife and I are still really great friends, and we see each other constantly, and all of us have even shared holidays together. Anyways, Devin and Trish were on good terms, and they even went out and did things without me too. They had a great relationship. So then this brings me to Jeff and his wife. We all spent a lot of time together, and we did a Friendsmas thing and a Friendsgiving every year. We all spent a lot of time camping together. We did a lot together. And so when he said that he was getting a divorce from his wife Amy, it sort of hit the friend group hard, and we tried our best to support them in whatever way they needed. However, Amy really gave it to Jeff hard and was saying that she was going to take the kids to Ontario to be with her parents who still live there. So naturally, Jeff was devastated on hearing this, and he tried his best to keep his kids here. But alas, she ended up moving there and did, in fact, take the kids with her. So it was rough to see him go through, and it was hard to see him being treated like that and getting his kids taken away. So in this time, he really leaned on us, and because they had to sell the house, we let Jeff stay with us for a little bit until he landed on his feet again. Well, it turned into a little bit longer than we would have liked. Then Devin sort of had this idea that we could renovate the garage and turn it into a suite. So I complied, and Jeff was really gracious about it and helped out and spent a lot of time making it his own. Whatever, it was a bit of an annoyance, but I wanted to help in any way that I could. And it was better than him staying in our house. At least he was out of the house and in his own space, so that Devin and I could have proper alone time without worrying if Jeff was going to hear, if you catch my drift. Okay, so now Devin. Devin worked as a dispatch agent for a little bit, and that's how we met. And the job is actually really stressful, so she managed to stick it out for 2 years, and now she works as a hair stylist and loves it. Devin and I met a few months after the divorce with Trish was finalized. We hit it off really well. She's actually 8 years older than I am. She said that she didn't want any kids, and she was really fun. Like really fun and wild. We had our motorcycles and went on hunting trips. She was like one of the guys, but like a chick. And a chick that wanted to get down and dirty with you, low. That's a horrible explanation, but you get it. She was fun. She was everything that I needed at the time. We had the same interests, and we had a lot of the same hobbies. And because she had mentioned that she didn't want any kids, I thought, wow, great. I don't have to worry about telling her that I had a vasectomy. So the topic never came up. Yes, I know. I'm a horrible person. I never told her that I had a vasectomy. But because the topic of kids never really came up, that was sort of it. She obviously was the best stepmom to my kids, and she had always said that that was enough. She wasn't even the marrying type until I just felt like, yeah, I want to spend the rest of my life with this woman and it just feels right. It's not like she was against marriage or anything, but she just didn't expect it, you know? She didn't need to get married. She was so chill that way and I love that about her. So we ended up having this small, intimate, backyard wedding and a fire with a barbecue, and it was perfect. It was perfect for us and all we needed. So yeah, shortly after we got married, Jeff went through his divorce. He was staying with us. Blah blah. Now, we worked together but we weren't on the same team. So he had different shifts than I did. And Devin had a really lax schedule too. So a lot of times, Devin and Jeff were at home together alone. And at first I thought it was just Devin being helpful and a good friend. But after a while, he definitely started getting weird. I'd text her during the day and ask how her day was doing and she'd say, "Oh, Jeff and I are just out for lunch," or "Jeff and I are just out running errands." And I'm like, okay, weird. But then they were going to movies together. And then they'd go to concerts together. And then when I was home, I saw little things that rubbed me the wrong way. Like he'd touch her arm when she was talking to him. She'd touch his bicep when he made her laugh. She'd dish him up food and she wouldn't dish me up food. And then she'd constantly bring him up like, "Oh, Jeff told me about this." Or "Jeff said the funniest thing." And I was like, okay, red flag. Definitely raised my suspicions. Then even though he was literally up in the garage suite, they'd text into the wee hours of the morning and she'd be giggling and texting him. And there I'm laying next to her in bed and honestly, I'm trying to start something up, trying to give her a massage or something, get in the mood, and she wouldn't be interested. She'd just keep texting him. So I'd just roll over and just fall asleep and she'd be texting him. Then there would be little gifts here and there. He got her like bath stuff for the bathtub, and in one gift set there was massage oil. And after a week, I noticed that the bottle had been opened and used, but I didn't use it on her. At first I chalked it up to maybe she used it for lotion or something. But the thing is, this oil had a distinct smell. And I remember smelling it on Jeff a few times, but I never said anything. I was just sort of collecting all of this evidence and making mental notes. Then one day, we're laying in bed late at night, and she turns to me and she's like, "I want a baby." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "I think we should have a baby." And I'm like, "We agreed not to." And she's like, "I've just been thinking, and I think we should have a baby before we're both too old." And I'm like, "Devin, like." And she's like, "What do you mean you don't know?" And I'm like, "Well, a baby is a lot. It takes a lot of time and energy." And then she got mad at me, and she's like, "Don't treat me like your old child." And then I said that I thought we went over this before. And she's like, "We never really did." And I'm like, "I feel like it was just an unspoken thing. And I feel like you said that you were okay without kids and were good with being a stepmom." And she's like, "So I'm not allowed to change my mind. You won't let me be a mom?" And I'm like, whoa, that's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I think we have to talk more about this and maybe now isn't the best time. And she's like, "Well, what would make it a good time? When will you want to talk about it?" And I'm like, "Can we like sleep on it and talk about it tomorrow and make time for this tomorrow?" And she got pissed and left the room. And yeah, I didn't have the heart in that moment to tell her I had a vasectomy, and it would be fiscally impossible for me to give her a child unless I went and got it reversed. And even then it's not 100%. And something was just sketchy about the whole conversation anyways. I thought it was weird that now, all of a sudden, she wanted a baby. She had never ever shown interest in anything like this before. My alarms are going off. I'm pretty sure I know what happened, but I need to play along a little bit here. The next day, I apologize and I'm like, "Yes, I'm game. Let's make a baby." She literally jumps for joy and we try like 5 times that day. Then about a week later, she hands me this box, and in this box is a positive pregnancy test. I could have cried. I was stunned. I knew it couldn't have been mine. And I'm not an expert or anything. But can you find out a week after? I don't think it works that way. Anyways, let me know if I'm wrong here. But the point is, I had a hunch and I knew the baby wasn't mine. I knew it must have been Jeff's. So I started watching them closer. Both Devin and I had agreed not to tell anybody that we were pregnant right away. But when I was watching Devin and Jeff interact, I caught him grazing her belly at the side of my eye. I pretended like I didn't see, but he for sure touched her belly in a lovingly way. There it was. A few weeks after that, She tells me she's going to her doctor's for the first little exam to see how far along she was, and that Jeff was going to drive her because he had to do some running around in the area anyways. And I was like, no need. I'm taking time off because I want to be there. And she sort of smiled and was like, you don't have to do that. And I was like, I'm the father. I want to be there. And I kind of smiled and she weakly grinned and was like, great. Of course you do. So yeah, we ended up going to the appointment and the doctor does her thing with her and asks her when she thinks she's conceived. She gives her the date that we did the old deed. There's an ultrasound. And then the doctor comes back and says that she's 12 weeks. And I'm like, how is that possible? And I look at her and she's like, Doc, is this for real? And she's acting all shocked and everything. And the doc is like, yeah, seems like you have a miracle. And I was like, whoa. And I pretend to be totally ecstatic to not tip her off that I knew anything I shouldn't. Then we go home, and when we're home I'm still pretending and she's like, oh, it was meant to be. What a miracle. I'm so excited. We end up having SAGs again that night, and I turned over and fell asleep. I had the next day off, but I knew she had to get up early because she had a wedding to do. I knew that was my chance to pack her shit and lock Jeff out of the suite. I knew Jeff also had to get up and go to work. So I did just that. I packed all of her garbage. I stockpiled it into our trailer, and I parked it on the street. I had a spare key to Jeff's suite. So I went in there and packed up his stuff too, and threw it into the same trailer. Then I put this big old lock on it so that he wouldn't get in. So Devin comes home first and sees this trailer parked there. I had changed the locks on the doors and the password to the garage so she couldn't get in. She's standing there, and she's banging on the front door. I talk to her through our doorbell camera, and I tell her that we're done, and I know the baby isn't mine. She's saying that I'm out of my absolute mind and calling me crazy, and she's bawling and making a big scene, and I can see our neighbors looking out their doors and windows. And I'm like, this baby isn't mine. It's Jeff's. And she's like, don't be insane. Why would it be Jeff's? And I'm like, you tell me. And she's like, how could this baby not be yours? And I'm like, there's a less than 1% chance, and I know that because I have a vasectomy. And she literally dropped her purse and her bags onto the ground. She stood there in disbelief. And she's like, let me explain. And she starts trying to babble on, and I'm like, save it. I know it's not mine. And I'm like, we're done. It's over. I was nice enough to pack the trailer for you. Get out of here. And then she calls someone, and I'm guessing it's Jeff, because then he shows up in a matter of minutes in his patrol car. He sees what's happening, and he sees the lock on the garage suite. He tells me that I'm losing my mind, and that the kid couldn't possibly be his. And unlike I'll believe it when I see a paternity test. Edit. People have been asking how she never knew, and how she didn't suspect not getting pregnant before. Well, she was on birth control pills for PCOS. Or so she told me. Supposedly, she was in the process of swapping pill brands, and just so happened to get pregnant with Jeff's baby. Bad timing. Not only that, but she had this thing against, well, man juice, to put it lightly. She was absolutely repulsed by it. She refused that I ever finished in her, and she rarely ever pleased me in other ways because the sight of it disgusted her. I won't go into details. But yeah, update. So, getting divorced. Again. Another failed marriage feels like absolute dump, but what can you do? In the midst of the divorce, Devin did end up getting a paternity test, and it only confirmed what I had believed. The baby is in fact Jeff's. And I guess he knew all along and was willing to play along and thought that he could just live in the garage suite forever and raise his baby as Uncle Jeff from afar. A buddy of mine did me a huge favor and got Jeff transferred to a small northern town literally in buttfuck nowhere. Devin, I guess, followed him up there. She was just trying to pretend that I impregnated her so that I didn't catch on to the affair she was having with Jeff. But turns out my little secret snip saved me from raising a kid that wasn't my own. By the time she realized she was pregnant, though, it was a bit late. Trish and I talk every day. She checks in on me, and she's being an absolute sweetheart. I'm spending a lot of time with my kids and just trying to get by and be the best dad that I can be. Alright, second cheating story. My wife cheated. So I left her and karma hit her hard when this happened. Everyone was right. I'm so crushed. My post history details what happened. Well, everyone here was right. I had an anonymous phone call at work today. He told me she was screwing around on Snapchat. I called her and told her to get home now. I forced her to sign in and saw everything. Over 15 guys getting sex and naked pics for the last 6 months. It gets worse. After some pressure and a long argument, I convinced her I'd stay if she told me the whole truth. She screwed someone in my bed, in my home. I gave her everything. I gave her my whole life. We grew up together, with each other since 17, 13 years down the drain. I'm so freaking destroyed. My poor kids. My poor babies. I took a ring off and walked out. Lawyers tomorrow. I'm so screwed up right now. I can't even think. I was stupid and did not read the rules properly. Update posted below. Update. I went to the house today, as I should not have left originally. I sat her down and told her how it is. It's my parents' house. She is to leave. Tonight. I'm giving her 2 days to get her affairs in order, and then taking the new vehicle I just purchased for her and selling my Mustang as I need a 6-seater. Then she cannot afford the payments on the vehicle. She's had a comfortable home wife life, and an entry-level job will not pay for that SUV, and I'm not paying it for her. Unfortunately, I cannot afford a lawyer, so I have applied for legal aid. 10 business days to even hear if I qualify. In lieu of that, we grew up a separation agreement together. She gets nothing. I'm giving her $200 to get on her feet. She'll have no vehicle by Friday. She has to leave the house. Kids stay with me until she can find housing, then we'll revisit custody split. So far, neither of us has any interest in changing the kids' lives. She has agreed to sign divorce papers and asked for nothing is signed in the agreement. I already paid the phone bill for the month, so she can keep it until October 20th. Then she is either to pay the balance and transfer to her own name, or I cut off the phone. I work nights, but it sounds like my job is willing to give me a transfer on today's shift, so I can be there for the kids and not have her in my house any more than necessary. Today was absolutely the hardest day of my life. So absolutely crushed and broken. She finally formally apologized on her way out. A real proper apology. When she started her vehicle, I closed the door and collapsed against it, bawling. I don't feel like I can handle this right now. It took everything I had to come back from the first time this happened. I am so utterly destroyed. Update. Post history has details. I'll spare the explanation again. 3 days out from the worst day of my life. Our anniversary is tomorrow. It would have been 14 years together. I keep finding myself making excuses of texture. Random crap about the kids. I hate myself as soon as I hit send. Because of the way everything went down, she has been here every day. Not sleeping here, but spending the day with the kids. I'm pissed off because I don't even get the validation of telling her how I feel for the sake of being a bigger person. I have to save face with the sake of the kids. She pretty much got off scot-free in that regard. I pulled the ring off her finger and walked out, which felt pretty good and a little badass at the time. But now, there's so much crap I wanted to say to her about how she destroyed everything. My life and our children's. I can't say anything to her because I'm fearful if we fight, she'll try to take me for everything. And right now, she's being good about that kind of stuff. Not that we had much anyway. But on the eve of her anniversary, I'm finding myself a little less sad today and more angry at her than anything. And all of her stupid little toxic friends that helped her hide it. She destroyed my career. I kicked her out. She has nowhere to go, so I cannot work. Now full-time dad to 4 kids. I'm being forced to sell my Mustang I've had for less than a year and I've dreamed about since I was 7. My kids are in utter emotional shambles. God, I could go on about everything she destroyed all night, but I'm pretty sure I'm rambling enough as it is. She went to a friend's wedding today. It's the first full day of no communication I've had with her in 13 years. I find myself typing out messages and deleting it, trying to make excuses to talk to her. Thing that bugs me the most is she didn't even try to call their kids today. No messages asking how they were doing, didn't call them to say goodnight. Nothing. I don't know. This has been a long rant.
I'm sorry.
Update. Post history goes through everything. I took a lot of advice from here to heart and have gone full no contact unless it's about the kids. It's been difficult. Ever since I started, she's been trying to emotionally pull me back to her. She keeps dropping sexual hints, trying to get me into bed, etc. But I came to a revelation about day 11 or 12 just out of nowhere. I got angry. I haven't really been angry through any of this. Sad, depressed, and everything else you can think of. Yes, but not angry. This was brought on by me accidentally stumbling upon one of the guys she had in her Snapchat. And I discovered he's older than my father, or around the same age. I don't know why of all the things that happened it took that to set me off, but now I don't see her as anything but disgusting. She's a gross pile of human stink that is just remnants of something I used to know. Also, her priorities have been making me hate her even more. Around here we have this thing called low-income housing. When you don't work or have kids, they will basically give you a place to live for free. A full-on 3 or 4 bedroom apartment. To me, and anyone logical, that would be the first phone call I would make. Here we are coming up on week 3, and she still has not made that call because her only priority has been finding her next lay. Whatever. She's out of my house, and I'm mentally planning to be the sole parent of these children. My father was in a similar situation when he was my age. After a year and a half, the woman in question signed over all of her rights to the children and walked away, never to be seen again. I'm fully expecting that to happen to me the way things are going. I am still unable to return to work due to the fact that she chose to live with her friend in a 1-bedroom place. Custard right now with the kids is basically 97% me, 3% her. So as it stands, I'm going to remain on unemployment until she can get her act together. I have plenty of money saved, and my employer was the one that suggested this, so no matter what, I have a job to go back to when this is over with. There's been some huge uplifts for me over the last 6 to 7 days as well. As soon as I changed my Facebook status to single, I had more women than I thought ever knew I existed adding me and trying to talk to me. I gotta say, that made me feel pretty good. I'm not that great looking up a guy, but I guess in my age group stability and loyalty is rare. There's a girl I used to work with that started talking to me out of the blue that I always thought had a crush on me. We've been talking 12 hours a day for the last 4 days. Given how little my soon-to-be ex-wife put into our relationship, it feels flattering to be pursued. I've been clear with my intentions from the get-go, so we're just talking, but goddamn, it's nice. And now it's the best part. This morning, day 18, I woke up on my couch and I was happy. I no longer miss her. I don't even realize when it happened. I just suddenly became self-aware that I hadn't thought of her in any way other than anger for at least 2 days. And I don't miss her being here. Hopefully things keep looking up, but so far things are moving along for me. Thanks for reading. Update. My post history has the details. It's way too long to post again. I haven't posted on here since about the first month. Things got pretty hectic and crazy. I'm not even right sure where to begin because there has been so many things happening. I think I'll just go month by month. We separated the end of September, and as previously stated, I had to walk away from my career to look after our children. Throughout the month of October and November, she skipped scheduled visits so much that I was unable to return to work in November like originally planned. Out of 18 scheduled visits, she saw them 6 times. Ended up filing for unemployment benefits, which I got approved for. Instead, I chose to focus on developing skills to work from home. In December, she started dating a guy and forced the children into an introduction with him by having them over to his house for the weekend. She had known him approximately 2 weeks at this point. He ended up dumping her 3 days before Christmas. In January, she decided to move to a different town. Things went from an agreed upon 50-50 to her only seeing them on weekends. She tried to introduce the children to another guy. Thankfully, she listened to me the time and opted not to. She skipped many of her visits, got one of her boy toys to message me on her birthday demanding the children call her, and rarely calls. February, I believed she saw them twice. Around the middle of February, she decided that when she secures her own housing, the children are going to live with her, with me only being able to see them 6 days a month. We had a written agreement done up that stated the deal was 50-50. So due to that, I did what I should have done months before and hired a lawyer. For all of this, she refused to get a job. She stole the government child benefits to live off of. I eventually got approved for this and back paid. She convinced one of her sexual partners to buy her a car. It blew up the first time she picked up the kids, and she refused to fix it, so all visitation has been at my expense. She skipped on average 60% of scheduled visitation. She calls maybe once a week, sometimes once every 3 weeks. And she stole from me knowingly and caused my insurance payments to bounce, almost causing a loss of coverage. I did manage to sell my car at no loss. Thankfully, this market is a seller's market. I unfortunately have not returned to work, but I am working on certifications to do something from home. The hours I can work when the kids are in school do not allow me to make enough money to make ends meet. Unemployment actually pays more. Throughout all this, I'm genuinely happy. All this stuff people told me it gets better, it gets easier, isn't necessarily true. I think they're situational. Her lack of empathy for her kids causes me a lot of stress and headaches. I went full no contact around November. Anyone reading this that made it this far? Do it. No contact was the best thing I could have done for myself. The girl I detailed talking to ended up confessing to having feelings for me. We decided to pursue and have been seeing each other for a little while. She's great and knows the traumatic things I went through are not easily forgotten. But she is willing to work through it with me, which is more than I can ask of another person. Alright, let's see some relevant comments replied by Opie. Pereira55 says,
Eupia.
I'm happy that things are becoming better for you, but at the end you are dealing very well with all of this. No contact with her is the must. Pursue your new relationship since you had all the right to be happy. And had your girlfriend meet already your children? If yes, how is their relationship? Opie responds, no contact was extremely difficult, but it was the one move I made that helped secure my sanity. My girlfriend had already known the children for 2 years. She was a coworker and babysat for me on weird days sometimes. She does not have children of her own, so I slowly eased into things and let the children set the pace. It has been great so far. They love her and are always excited for our next outing. HPO21 says, hopefully you have kept records and have made copies for your attorney. She is an unfit mother, and perhaps the court will see that and officially give you custody. The Opie replies, if there is any advice I can give to any fathers that end up going through a similar situation is that record everything and keep everything. Only communicate through text messages, don't do anything in person. Back everything up to multiple places. I did this from day one, and it has been my savior. When I went to see my lawyer, I handed her over 400 pages of evidence. Bell17 says, good for you, mate. But I would be careful. No doubt your ex will try to do something to mess up your relationship, so record everything. Make a note for everything, just in case you need to get a restraining order or if she tries to take the kids. The Opie replies, she has already tried. She went on a ramble a couple of weeks ago about how much she misses me and tried to accuse me of cheating on her while we were married. I am an open book with my girlfriend and tell her about anything and everything in regards to my soon-to-be ex-wife. And yes, I have records of every conversation dating back several years. I got into the habit a few years ago of not deleting things, and it has served me well. I headed my lawyer over 400 pages of evidence.